All right, Kiss Army, welcome to the KissFAQ Podcast. Thank you for giving us your time today and letting us into your head. I hope we don't do any damage. This is a Kiss-related podcast by the board, for the board. We hope that you enjoy. Welcome to episode 390 of the KissFAQ Podcast, our first episode of 2022. Yay, the crowd goes wild. And by that I mean 2022, not 2022. Hopefully. Please, no more. So it's New Year. Happy New Year to everyone, and hope everyone had a good holiday season and festive season. If you've taken a break from us, well, shame on you. This week's topic is something I think that kind of generates itself from the board, but 2022 is going to be the 25th anniversary of the release of Carnival of Souls. So since it's dark out a lot and it's cloudy and miserable in a lot of places, what better album to kind of start the year off with a reevaluation and ranking of the material? There was a thread on the FAQ recently that asked the question, why do some fans hate Carnival of Souls so much? And I won't go into the details of that topic. Instead, we're going to actually just talk about the album as we do with our rankings. So we've all ranked the album songs from least favorite to most favorite. Someone indeed had I Walk Alone as their favorite, Mark, which is really weird, but, you know, if that's your ranking.
Favorite?
No.
Oh, wait, I got your list backwards. Sorry. I just flipped that around. Okay,
I was going to say,
Julian,
he really does walk alone.
You know?
Yeah, that looks way better now. Yeah, sorry about that. Recalculating. So, Mark, let's start with you. You know, your first memory of listening to the album, and whether your memory of then is similar to now that we've listened to the album a bunch of times to talk about it today.
Well, I remember the first time that this album was sort of talked about in the circles that I hung in. We were, in a band with a few guys who were Kiss fans. I've mentioned this before. One guy was a diehard guy, and me and him used to go to the Kiss conventions that were plentiful back in the late 90s and 2000s and stuff like that. He mentioned this mysterious album, Carnival of Souls, and that he was one of these people who was seeking it out in the circles, trying to find it. And he even went as far as to look in the magazine classifieds, because sometimes he would have these people saying, I have, like, because if you want to buy it, contact me. And he would do that. He would get all kinds of interesting bootlegs and stuff like that. I remember the first time I heard it, I wasn't disappointed because I had liked Revenge, because it was pretty heavy, and I thought it was kind of in that direction that it kept the heaviness. It wasn't like three steps back and doing some kind of commercial pop album. So I thought, okay, this is pretty good. There were some songs immediately that I didn't gravitate to too much, like the usual things that you would suspect. My opinion of it has changed over the years, in which I find that the more I listen to this record, and I listened to it today, I put it on our little group poster that I pulled out the vinyl and listened to it. I just find this album, and I think this might be a good word for my description of it. I find this album disingenuous. I find it very phony. And I find it hard to believe. Lyrically, I find it hard to believe, even musically. I mean, when you hear Paul Stanley saying about all these bad things and all these things, it sounds like a teenager with a razor blade in a bathroom. Like, it's like, give me a break, man. Like, I mean, what do you have to be crying about? You have a multi-millions of dollars, you have a huge house, beautiful wife, sports cars, and you're in a popular band. Why would you even be the slightest bit depressed? I mean, this album almost sounded like something that you would believe coming from like Alice in Chains or something like that, and not from Kiss. You're muted, Julian.
I know, and yours is jumpy today. Your Canadian Wi-Fi's in full
great.
force, so if you see us staring at you, it's probably because we're frozen. I forgot to introduce everyone. In case you don't know these people, it's Marcus on my head, Mark, Wheeze, Daniel, and 69 Blizzard discussing this topic. Daniel, what about you? Your memory of first hearing it, and whether your opinions about the album have changed, similar to Mark's.
Well, as a lot of people, I got the bootleg first, so I was kind of over it when they actually released the record. I've listened to the bootleg a few times, and it didn't sound that great, and you didn't have any cool pictures, and you didn't have any lyrics, and so on. So I didn't really fancy the album. From what I remember, it didn't stick. I listened to it, and I understood. Well, they play great. There is something in the record that's good, but I don't like to listen to it a lot of times. So I listened through it, and I couldn't really pick a favorite song or two like I did on the previous record, where I found Unholy and maybe Take It Off, two songs that I really liked. So no song really stood out to me. And as I said, when the album was actually released, I had already listened to it. So I bought it and maybe listened to it once or twice, and then I guess I put it on the shelf and didn't listen to it a lot. Actually, this week I've listened to it more than I've done for quite a few years, and I have to say it's aged pretty good to my ears. I kind of found a song or two that I really enjoyed and liked, but there are some issues with the album that I will address later on that I would like to change or alter. But all in all, I don't think it's a bad album. I just think it's, as Mark said, it's a bit doesn't feel honest. It's a bit they're trying to be something that they aren't. But on the other hand, wasn't that what they were doing all through the 80s? So well, maybe not to this extent. It becomes too obvious that they're trying too hard, but there are a few gems on the album. I think it'll be interesting to hear what you guys have to say about it.
Yeah, you nailed it. Chasing trends instead of being the trend. And Mark nailed it with disingenuous, that it's dishonest.
That's a big word.
That's a big word, like gymnasium. Does it have the same amount of letters, though? So both of those observations are very good. When I got it, I traded for it on the bootleg circuit. I listened the hell out of it. It was really exciting because it wasn't out. Here was a full Kiss studio album, brand new, and everyone was kind of getting it at the same time. And there were people who were only doing 3-for-1 trades for it, on the bootleg circuit, or making all sorts of outrageous demands for a copy. And I actually gave in to one of those outrageous demands to get a copy. Because I wanted it, and I listened to it, and I enjoyed it far more than it deserved to be enjoyed, because I wasn't familiar. I didn't listen to Alice in Chains. I didn't listen to Soundgarden. I didn't listen to any of that crap. Was not interested in it.
That's not crap, Julian.
I wasn't listening to Stone Temple Pilots. No interest in that stuff whatsoever back then. I had a single Soundgarden song on a Kerrang compilation, so I didn't know about that side of the alternative scene that had become popular. I knew Nirvana and Pearl Jam, but this is not that. This is completely different. So I was very excited, and then it when it was released, I did promo work for Polygram in London for it. So I was very into it because it was like my first interaction with a record label. So it skewed my reaction to it for a while, and then it just dropped off. I was like, this is crap, I'm not listening to it. And I didn't listen to it very much after that at all. Going back and revisiting it, it was, yes, Daniel?
Yeah, I'm just wondering, has it been any do we know how it leaked? Does anyone have an idea how the album leaked? Because it leaked all over the place. But are there some theories about how it leaked? Do you know, Julian?
I've heard theories that it came through a band member, but there were so many different versions of it, some with 12 songs, some with 10 songs, some with 9 songs circulating, that who knows? I mean, could very, very easily have had copies, just get out through the process of it sitting around at Polygram for those years, because it was delivered. It was delivered to the label.
Yeah,
So
I heard that there was, and who knows, this could be completely wrong, but I think we heard sometime, when you go to these conventions and you have this little chit chat with some of these vendor guys, I think somebody told my friend Ted that he heard that it was some intern that worked at Polygram and who was a fan had kind of stumbled upon a cassette copy of it and kind of like yoink, put it in his pocket and took it, and it was one of those things like, he dubbed it for one friend, and he dubbed it for one friend, and so on, and so on, and then all of a sudden it got out. Yeah. Now, whether that's true or not, I don't know. I don't know for sure, but that's what we heard through a convention person.
Yeah, and any of them are plausible. I mean, I don't think a band member would ever be that pissed off that they.
Eric was pretty pissed off, but
I still don't think he would have done it directly or deliberately.
No.
Yeah.
Any one of the band members could have had someone listen to a copy and then for them to do the nefarious thing and sell it on, because, come on, unreleased Kiss album is an unreleased Kiss album, just like it's the same with, Prince albums or Bruce Springsteen, or, even Psycho Circus. So, ultimately I don't think it matters that it got out, in that it eventually forced their hand into releasing it when I don't think they would have otherwise have done so if it wasn't circulating.
Well, I think it of course it damaged the sales. I mean, everyone had it when they released it, but if you recall how it was back in the day, I remember Eric being kind of upbeat about the reunion because it would increase the interest in the Carnival of Souls album. I remember reading interviews with him. Well, there's a reunion now. He thought it was only for a year or two, and this will increase interest for our album. So Eric was looking forward to the album being released and hoping it would do well, which it didn't.
Well, it did. Jungle went to number one on the mainstream rock tracks. Master and Slave did well radio wise.
No one knows those songs. No one. Ask anyone. Do you know Master and Slave? Yeah.
Ken, do you know Master and Slave?
I do.
Ask a man on the street. Lick it up. Heavens on Fire, Tears of War, and Crazy Nights, or Master and Slave. No one will know Master and Slave. So I don't know if it really was a hit.
No, modern rock tracks are
what the hell is that?
That's not even, exactly. It's just another measurement of, I think, of airplay on certain radio stations. Ken, same question to you.
Yeah, what was the question? I got so off track. Well, all right. I was expecting, a Revenge 2 kind of thing. I knew it was going to be darker because that's what Eric had said in the convention in San Francisco, and it was a lot darker. I first heard it actually. I was able to download it on my computer.
Oh.
MP3s. It was leaked, and I got it that way. Yeah, so I had it that way. I didn't sell it or anything like that. I just. I found it. It was there, and then I started listening to it, and I thought, okay, it's it starts off pretty good. Sounds okay. Yeah, it's kind of different, and then all these different songs. It was totally different, and like Daniel said, the tone of it, the lyrics and that sort of thing was just especially a downer for Paul. Not so much for Gene, because you kind of expect a lot of that from Gene, but and then being disingenuous. Yeah, I agree with that comment. Definitely, because I think this is disingenuous because it was kind of a concept album, in my opinion. Kind of like The Elder. They tried to do something with The Elder. They tried to be something they're really not. And then I guess they've done it to a degree with like Crazy Nights. You can go back to Destroyer. I mean, some people call that a concept album to a degree. That's because of Bob Ezrin. But yeah, Carnival of Souls, they were truly chasing the trend again. I don't think they needed to do that, but someone, I don't know if it was, I think it was, I forget who was the one in the band who wanted it, and I don't know if it was Gene was said no, they didn't want him, or it was Paul. I can't remember, but whatever. They fell in line and they went with Toby Wright, and it's a lot like April, not April, the other grunge bands out there, to a degree. So it was interesting. There's some things I really like about it, and we'll get onto it, I guess, coming up. But it was different. It was too bad that they went that route.
Yep. But fortunately it was released. Otherwise, we'd still be discussing it, but we're celebrating it in the same kind of way. Mark, I'm going to start with you. So we split these into the top, the middle, and the bottom in terms of the rankings. The 4 songs that end up at the bottom of our ranking, I don't think anyone will be surprised that in last place is I Walk Alone, completely down at the bottom, followed by It Never Goes Away, In My Head, and Rain. So on 5, 13, 15, and 17 points respectively. Mark, why don't you start us off with your thoughts on those songs, or some of them, as to why they may fall in the bottom of the Carnival?
Yeah. Well, okay. We here on the podcast and in the forum really love Bruce Kulick. We sing his praises with him on the cruises and the shows that he puts on with the, keeping up the 80s material and later material. So it's kind of hard. It feels hard and difficult to kind of diss I Walk Alone, being that it's his song and he sings it. But to me, it's not that it's a bad song. It just to me seems like the most out of place song on the whole record. It just seems like something that they should have just told him to keep for his solo record and not use it as a Kiss song. So I just never really took to it as a Kiss song. So to me, that's always been bottom of the barrel for me as far as that went. The other ones, I forgot what you said. The other 3 were It Never Goes Away.
Never Goes Away, Rain, In My Head.
Okay, so like In My Head, for example, it's another example of it being one of these unbelievable songs to me. I mean, it just doesn't seem like a song that I would expect Kiss to be singing, when I hear it. Rain, to me, is, again, that prime example of what I was talking about earlier with Paul Stanley. I expect Paul Stanley to be one of those, like, yeah, baby, dancing around and singing about girls and, partying and this and that, and, talking about going down to New York City and partying and not like, the rain is falling on him and he's all depressed and, it's like that just does not, I don't buy that for a minute. So it's those kind of songs that I always kind of looked at as the weaker part of the record in my eye, because I just don't think that those are songs that translated well. There are songs on this record that are heavy or heavier too, that to me just seem more believable, that I could believe Kiss would write a song like this and perform a song like that. And those 4 are definitely not one of those songs. I mean, and all of those ones to me they just don't connect with me at all.
Daniel, those 4 for you. You also have I Walk Alone as your least favorite from the album.
Actually, Julian, all those 4 songs are at the bottom of my list. So I'll explain why. Mark said it perfectly about I Walk Alone. I mean, and Bruce, I don't know if you said that Bruce isn't really a singer. I mean, let's be honest. He can't really sing, and that makes the song really monotonous. But the song I'd like to focus on in that bottom 4 is It Never Goes Away. Yeah, It Never Goes Away, because That's like everything that's wrong with this record. Paul is trying to sound like something he isn't, and that's just a blatant rip-off from, the star of heavy metal. Which song is it?
Black Sabbath.
Yeah. So, and if you listen to It Never Goes Away, it's like it's the same riff.
Half the other dozen millions of metal songs have that,
Yeah.
flat
At
third or fifth.
At this point of time, I mean, really, Paul, you're looking at the first heavy metal album and you're copying it. I mean, it's terrible. So that says it all. How lost he must have been at this point in time. And if you recall reading, what's the name of the second Paul Stanley book? We talked about it. I remember Julian, Mark, and I talked about
Backstage or something? Or?
Yeah, something about Backstage. Where he said, me and Gene, we didn't even talk to each other in '94. So it was a bad period for Paul. And somehow he tried to copy the original heavy metal song with this one. And that's the problem with the album. Paul is lost at this point. He doesn't really. There's only one song on this album that he managed to be Paul in. I mean, otherwise he's trying to be someone else, and we'll get to that later. But I mean, and the lyrics, how is it? And it's so slow. Preachers healed to temptation. Yeah. It's not Paul. Maybe if Gene did it, it would be a bit better. But this isn't really anything for Paul. You need the good and the evil. You need the light and the dark. You need Gene and Paul. Paul is somehow trying to be Gene on this album, in my mind.
No, he's trying to be Derek Smalls from Spinal Tap.
He succeeded.
Yeah. But I mean, copying Black Sabbath and all the things Mark said, I think it was really good that these four songs ended up at the bottom of the list, because in my mind these four are probably the worst songs, but I kind of like the rest. So these are the only four songs that are a bit subpar, but the rest I feel is like a 7 or higher. So let's move on.
Yeah, and I think once you get past the bottom third, then everything else is a positive. Ken, your thoughts on I Walk Alone, It Never Goes Away, In My Head and Rain?
In my head, yeah. Okay, so 3 of those were on my very bottom. Yeah, It Never Goes Away was at the bottom of mine. I said, my comment is, I wish it would go away. I said maybe the worst song on the album. Well, I put it as the worst song on the album, the way I ranked it. So for me, and so that one, yeah, it's just horrible, really. I Walk Alone, again, yeah, I kind of agree. Bruce is not really the, a lead singer kind of guy. I mean, he's done better vocals than that on his solo, like BK3 or whatever. But that song gets better in the chorus when either Gene is singing with him, I think. Gene and Paul, maybe Gene and Paul both, and they're singing. Then it sounds better. The song actually gets better.
What do you think about the demo, Ken?
Still not
what do you think
good.
about the demo?
That's a Gene, right? It was on
Gene,
that, right? Yeah,
because
it's a little better. Yeah. So I think it fits more with Gene and his style of singing. So that would make it a little bit better, but it is what it is. Rain, yeah, it's another one that is very dreary, like a rainy day, right? Definitely. It's too much downer stuff from Paul. It's just so uncharacteristic of what he normally writes. I think he really stepped out of himself to be able to write this kind of stuff. I don't know how he did it, to tell you the truth. But yeah, it's not right coming from him. What's the other one? I Confess? No.
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 In my head. In my head. Yeah, in my head I have. It's okay. I thought it was a pretty good song. I don't think it's horrible, but it's not one of Gene's better ones. So there's, like you guys said, the getting past this bottom third or whatever, it goes up real quick, gets a lot better.
Yeah, these are. I'm sorry, Bruce is not getting a pass even for his vocal effort on "I Walk Alone" from me. As much as I love him and he's important to me in terms of his contributions to history and my own historic journey, it's a crap song. It's just not good. It's not good structurally. It's not good in terms of arrangement. I went back to the demo on the Vault and it's crap as well. It is just not good to my taste. And if you love it, fine. And I was very excited for him to get a lead vocal on the album, and then I heard the song and it's almost atonal. There's no power there. Musically, it doesn't do anything for me. The backwards sections, it's disingenuous. It's utterly disingenuous, but it's also bad structurally, to my mind. And opinions vary. It never goes away. It's just fake. It could be Spinal Tapish. It's almost mocking. It's so bad. But so is Rain. Oh, Daniel covered that one perfectly. I've got nothing to add to what Daniel said. And in my head, Nest of Termites Glowing Red. Jamie St. James is a part of that song. Jamie St. James from Black and Blue, writing all these upbeat, happy, crappy anthems in the 80s is now, Mr. Misery. It is disingenuous. It's dishonest. It's like, really? It's not plausible. It's not believable in any way. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I don't like those songs at all. I find it hard to find any redeeming factors to try and insert some positivity into my comments on. So, thank you. Cleanse and breathe. Let's move on. And this is the middle of the pack. So, I think from this point on, those bottom four really are it. Everything else is interchangeable depending on mood and day to a certain extent. So, Mark, let's go back to you with I Will Be There, In the Mirror, Master and Slave, and Seduction of the Innocent. And I'll go through the rankings at the end for where all these songs ended up vote-wise.
So, I Will Be There is a song that ranked low on my list, mainly because, not that it's not a good song, and it's definitely more a song that I can believe Paul writing, you know what I mean? It's more in his style. But the reason why I didn't like it is that I just felt that if you're writing a record of heavy stuff like this and really dark stuff, this kind of sticks out like a sore thumb a bit to me. It's like, the kind of acoustic-y kind of thing. It makes me think back to, that era of the acoustic songs that were coming out at the time, all those bands. Not that it doesn't sound like, Be With You or anything like that, or More Than Words, but it's kind of like that sort of idea. A person in an acoustic guitar by himself, a little bit of conga drums there by, Eric Singer, and there you have the song. Now, it's not a bad song, but I just think it just stuck out like a sore thumb. That's why I had it kind of lower in my list. The other one you said was it Master and Slave, isn't that?
Master and Slave, In the Mirror, and Seduction.
Okay. In the Mirror and Seduction are one of those songs again where they just don't feel authentic to me. In the Mirror again is one of those things where the lines in those songs are just unbelievable. Like, look at the lines on my face and this and that. I'm like, come on, man. Like, you can pay for plastic surgery and get all this stuff rectified. It's not like you don't have any options. You know what I mean? So yeah, you know what I mean. And he did. So, see what I mean? If I find it hard to believe some of the things that he's singing about, those are the things that really bother me about these songs. Is that it just doesn't seem like something that he should be singing about, And talking about Jamie St. James, I can understand him being miserable, because I mean he was in a band that never really got too far, and then the whole grunge thing completely killed his band. So yeah, he might have something to be sore about.
But
you
Mark,
know.
Mark, you're really focusing on the lyrics. I mean, I always took you for a guy who listened to the music.
I do, and the music is, you know, not Kiss like either in a lot of ways, right? I mean, since when?
Oh no.
Like you think stuff like that just was not on.
Shouldn't have asked him that.
On there. But the lyrics though are an important part of the songs too, I find, you know.
What does deuce mean? What's that
Deuce?
song about? Yeah? What's that song about?
I've never really understood what Deuce was about.
No,
I mean,
it doesn't really matter.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, look, that to me is all. I used to go to these things a few years back. SOCAN is a Songwriters Association Guild thing here in Canada, and used to have these things called Date with a Tape, where you would come in, bring your original material, and you'd have like a panel of like songwriters there that were like well respected in the Canadian music business, and they would listen to it, and they actually nailed people with that all the time. They're like, they'd listen to the song, they'd scratch their head listening to it and go, what do these lyrics mean? And then they do the same thing and say, oh, they don't really have a meaning. They just sound cool. And the people would shake their head and go, no, that's not how you write a song. You don't just put words together that don't make any sense and expect it to be recognized as a song. And I think the same thing. That to me is a kind of cheap, lazy way of writing, you know?
Yeah, it is, but
Beatles did it sometimes.
Yeah. You remember that song?
Oh,
Yeah.
The Walrus had some of that stuff in it.
And
Anyway.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but ask me if I like those songs.
Tube.
I don't. So.
You don't? Okay.
Okay.
I always wonder about deuce. What the hell is the deuce? I mean,
It's worth a deuce, worth a crap.
The card.
That's how I look at it.
Is it Central Park that's called the deuce or something? And you
And deuce is also taking a number 2.
Number 2, and taking a deuce is like, you know, so and that's Julian's favorite song.
Yeah, musically probably.
No, he's worth a damn. He's worth a damn.
Yeah,
he's worth a deuce.
Worth a crap. Worth a, Yeah.
What,
maybe it was a slang term, you know.
Yeah, I'd have to ask someone, and maybe, you know, if we've got any listeners, or if you don't need listeners who speak Hebrew, Yiddish, Hungarian, you know, whether deuce rhymes with any word from those languages. I mean, you know, using a word as a rhyming mechanism. Blinded by the Light has a very famous one.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Manfred Mann. Or, I'm sorry, Bruce Springsteen wrote it, the damn songs.
He wrote it, right.
Yeah. You know, so they're useful devices. You have, you know, songwriters like Steven Tyler who will string together a whole song from meaningless LSD trip lyrics. You know, so they don't actually tell a story.
And sorry, before this leaves my head, the biggest band that does this and is guilty of this is one of my favorite bands. Yes, John Anderson writes incoherent lyrics all the time. I mean, one of the lines that I just realized now he wrote in the song "Close to the Edge." There's a line in there that says, "Rearrange your liver." What the hell does that have anything to do with what he's saying? It has nothing to do with. And he even says in interviews,
Tyson can do that to you.
Well, he said that, he goes, I write lyrics based on how the words sound, not the meanings of them. So right there, he obviously admits that he has no meaning half the time to his lyrics. So I can understand that approach, but I've never liked that approach.
Okay. So, Daniel, anything to add on I Will Be There, In the Mirror, Master and Slave, and Seduction of the Innocent? The middle of the pack.
Didn't you say take a look in the mirror as well? Take a look in the mirror.
Yeah, in the mirror.
In the mirror.
Yeah, in the mirror.
Because you guys just don't get it. Take a look in the mirror. It's the best song on the album. I'm probably the only one.
What?
I'll explain why.
Wow.
Oh my God, no. God can't help you here. I'll explain it to you. I'll be your God. So, he sings really well in this song. It's a little faster than most of the songs. I know Ken said he wanted Revenge too. This is the only or maybe one of the few tracks that could end up on a Revenge 2. Because you got the tempo, and listen to the drums. I mean, Eric Singer on the drums on this one is kind of mimicking Eric Carr a bit. I'll get to that. But there's a cool riff that you remember. The drums are really cool. Why is Julian holding his head like that? I don't like that. Okay. Let's see now. Ken, you do like Dress to Kill, don't you?
Sure.
Yeah. And Mark, I know you like Dress to Kill as well. Don't you?
Yeah, he's frozen.
I love it.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you listen carefully, this is a song that actually borrows some stuff from one of my favorite tracks on Dress to Kill. And this is the only song on this album that I feel could be, if you change the lyrics, Mark talked about the lyrics, this could be like I Just Wanna or Take It Off on Revenge, or it could actually be Love Her All I Can on Dress to Kill. The main riff is like... kind of a upbeat riff. It reminds me of...
A little bit, yeah.
And that song, that's Love Her All I Can. And that's not the only thing that reminds me of Love Her All I Can. If you listen to the bridge, they're using the drums.
Mm-hmm.
The only other time they did that was on Love Her All I Can. You remember that one?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And in this song, they do something similar. So there are a few similarities to I Love Her All I Can, and the riff is so upbeat. It's more of a positive feeling in the beat than the other stuff. It's not like it's a very good riff. It's very upbeat, and it reminds me of Dress to Kill, and it's like a simple rocker. This is a song that could end up on any of the 80s album. It would work on everything from Lick It Up to Revenge, in my mind. And in addition to that, you could also listen to the drums. Listen to the drums in this song. Eric Singer is kind of paying homage to Eric Carr. The drum pattern is totally different. For example, the other song that's one of my favorites on this album is Hate. But Eric goes wild on the drums. I don't know. It doesn't remind me anything of Peter Criss or Eric Carr. He kind of, he does a different feel.
He has his own style in it.
Yeah, and also, but in this song, he keeps it simple. He kind of mimics Eric Carr, like in the pre-chorus. He uses a lot of drums, kind of like Eric Carr did on Tears Are Falling. Oh no, tears are falling, ba 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 bum, bum ba da ba bum. Or in Heaven's on Fire, feel my heat taking you up, down with me, ba 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 ba. He uses the toms a lot, and Eric Singer in this song uses the toms a lot. So all in all, but as Mark mentioned, the lyrics aren't that good. But I'm not a guy that listens a lot to the lyrics. So this is, in my mind, the best Kiss song on the album. The best song, the only song that might work on another album. Maybe Hate would work and one or two more, but this is Kiss. So you have to, stay away from the lyrics and listen to the music on this one, and you'll understand that this is the best song on the album. And I guess I'm the only one in the world who feels this. Yeah.
Interesting comment. Interesting.
Yeah, but I hadn't thought about it early because when I listened through the album the other day, this one stuck in my mind, and I thought, what is it about this song that makes me like it so much? And then, oh my God, it sounds like, Love Her All I Can, and the drum thing, the bridge. It's the same thing, sort of, but updated. It's even cooler drums on this one if you compare it to Love Her All I Can. So, my mind, Take a Look in the Mirror is the best song. At least it's my favorite. Maybe there's one or two other guys out there that likes it as well. I hope.
It's happy misery. In other words, upbeat misery.
Yeah, the lyrics are wrong.
Misery you
this
can
song.
dance to.
Yeah.
Which is
But
makes
you have
makes
to listen to the music, guys. The music.
Well, it's for me, it's up there in my top half. It is. Yeah, it's catchy. Is it still believable?
Yeah, but
not
you can't
as
listen to
much,
the lyrics.
but musically it stands out much more. When you look at another one of those songs, and it's pretty low for me. I Will Be There. I mean, that's like Paul Stanley deciding to write Every Rose Has a Thorn, to be poison. I'll show Bret Michaels what he missed by not having me produce that. Open up and say blah. So we're in the middle. Master and Slave, again, that's catchy, upbeat. We're getting more into kind of a zone where Paul seems a little bit more honest in the material stylistically that he's writing. But Seduction of the Innocent is, for me, the best of that lot in the middle of the pack. Ken?
Yeah, so after the music lesson from Daniel, let's see, I will come with my comments. So In the Mirror, for me, it's number 9 of 12 on my list. So sorry, Daniel, about that. I say it's good, but I don't like the chorus. I just do not like the chorus at all. So that's where I put it. Again, I don't know if it's because of the lyrics too or what, but that's where I put that one. All right, the other ones, Master and Slave. It's all right. It has a nice opening groove, to it, riff. And I don't. The problem with Master and Slave, I do not like the way Paul sings those verses. It's like a whiny. I'm a little whiny, It's like no. That's just no good. If he was saying it straight, it would have been a lot better of a song. So that was a wrong choice in singing it that way. I Will Be There. Yeah, I understand it doesn't fit on this album, but I think it's a really, really good song. So that's why it's higher on my top half of my list. I think it's a really, really well written song, and that one is genuine, about his son. So that's probably the only song on the album that's genuine. And then what's the other one? Oh, Seduction and Innocent. Come on now, that's number 3. That's number 3 on my list. I love that. I've always loved that song. The verses are the best part of that song, and the guitar work by Bruce on that one, just fantastic guitar work on that one throughout. So that's one of my favorite songs. I don't know why that's not higher, but I really love that song.
Yeah, it's interesting just looking at our individual rankings here that all of us have 2 Gene songs in our top 3. Even Daniel.
It's not surprising on this album.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is definitely a Gene album.
Yeah, because I think it comes back to that concept of believability. Gene's always taken on that darker role with the material. Therefore, even if they're imitating and not being honest musically, it's at least easier to kind of forgive Gene because it's closer to his kind of menu anyway, in terms of his character, the character that he'd reclaimed in 1992 so effectively. All right, let's get into the top 4 then. I Confess in 4th place. Childhood's End in 3rd place. Hate in second place, and then Jungle is our top pick, and I'll run through all those rankings again. Daniel, no music lessons. Tell us what you think about those four.
Unfortunately, I have to bring out the guitar once again, because when I started listening to this album, there was one chorus that I remembered, because it was kind of remembered real well, and that was one of the Gene songs. I don't know what it's about it, but this one is kind of catchy. You were always my friend from childhood sound. It was forever and ever. Did you understand? It's childhood sound, but never dreamed so. I mean, that one, somehow that's stuck in my mind.
It's the guitar line. It's Bruce's guitar line that makes that whole song. That do da na 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 na, and the vocal follows that, and that's the strongest part of the whole song. Sorry, go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, you don't have to be sorry. Somehow Childhood's End stuck in my mind because it was a great chorus and one of the few solos that I really enjoyed on the album. Because if I would pick a problem with the album, it would actually have to be Bruce's solos. On Revenge, I think he nailed it. But on this record, he seems to have found a lot of pedals and effects and went a bit overboard and proved that he is really the studio musician. I mean, he can do anything. And now they wanted this, so he went overboard and did it. And lost his style somewhere. I mean, if you would pick your 10 favorite Bruce Kulick solos, I don't think you would pick a single one off of this album. I don't think you would find a solo that you... No, I don't think you'll find a solo that you like in this one. But this solo is kind of melodic, and he plays the melody and does some other stuff. So it's a good solo, and as I said, the chorus really stays with you. And that's not a common thing on this album. And more things goes in there and out of the other ear. So a good song. What were the rest in the top? Yeah, Jungle. I'd say I'd put Hate over Jungle because I think Hate is a pretty good sister song to Unholy. He kept the same vibe in this song. The lyrics are really dark, but Gene does a phenomenal vocal effort on this one. So Hate, I put that at number 2. So the runaway songs for me on this album is In the Mirror and Hate, and then there's a bit of a gap to the rest. So I would like to give a shout out to Hate. I think that could have been pretty cool live as a dark Gene song. So Jungle is a good song. I mean, it's well crafted, and that goes for all of the album. I think every song is well crafted and thought through, and they have a theme that runs through the whole album. I mean, it's dark, there's a lot of distortion, and I do understand why people really like this one. But at times, like Rain, for example, feels like something, a rip-off from Alice in Chains. You know, it's too blatant. It doesn't really work. While other stuff, they have kind of put the Kiss stamp on the song, like In the Mirror or Hate, and they work better. But I have to give a shout out to Hate. I really like that song.
All right, Mark, I confess, Childhood's End, Hate, and Jungle.
Yeah, a lot of those songs I definitely agree with. I mean, the only song of those 4 that I didn't have in my top 4 I can find, and I actually had Master and Slave as my, for some reason. Now in retrospect, I wonder why I had it so high. But in any case, Hate to me was a song that got me immediately excited when I heard this album. Because when it started off, it had that kind of, screechy feedback. comes in with this really cool riff down and it kicks in, and this is one of the only songs, or one of the few songs that I said, yeah, this I believe is Kiss. Okay, Gene singing it, the material sounds perfect, the lyrics and everything suit him, his style of singing, it's perfect. Toby Wright got the production, I think, right on this song. Some of the other stuff that he did, I question. Daniel made an interesting point about the guitar solos that Bruce Kulick did on this album. I think the main reason why they're so radically different is because of Toby Wright. I think that he's not really as focused on melody as Bob Ezrin was with him on Revenge. I think Ezrin sat him down and kind of said, listen, we need something a little bit more memorable here, maybe something like this. You know, he did let him use a bit of different things. He used wah and stuff like that on Revenge. But on this album, you know, because don't forget, look at what Toby Wright was doing before. Korn and all these other kind of heavy sort of 2000 bands, right? And those guys used a lot of effects and a lot of
metal.
Yeah, a lot of sort of, you know, chorusing and phasing and pitch shifting and stuff like that. And so when, you know, Bruce kind of probably timidly said, can I use my whammy pedal in this part? Yeah, sure, man, go ahead. You know, whereas Bob Ezrin probably would have said, I don't know about that. You know what I mean? He probably would have questioned it a bit, right? So I think that's a main difference about the sound of this album. And the destruction of it.
Mark, you as a guitarist, what do you have to say about the solos? What's your take on that?
I think technically he plays really good. I mean, if you watch the recording video that's on the Kissology, he plays some fantastic solos. I just think though sometimes he does go a little bit overboard, and I think that they don't rein him in and kind of control him enough on some of the things. And he goes a little nuts on stuff. That's why, you know what, and that might be a surprise for you guys, but that's why I think Ezrin is kind of better with solos, you know, with making solos than Toby Wright is in that capacity, right? But Eddie Kramer, I think, is very good at doing that as well. Jungle, I think, is an interesting song. The whole bass line of that is really interesting, the way they kind of flange that, the whole thing. And it's interesting that it's actually Bruce who plays that. It's not even Gene who plays that bass line on the record. But it's a great song. I think it sounds to me more comfortable for Paul to sing than some of this other material on here. The only comment that I have about this song that I but I would change is I think the ending, the outro, this is way too long. They could have easily made the song a minute shorter. You know, it dragged on a little too long at the end. If they would have trimmed that off, I think it would have been a near perfect song. Childhood's End, I've always liked this song. I don't know what it is, but that catchy line at the beginning, that always kind of sat in my head. I like the way it drops down to a single guitar, kind of semi-clean when they do the verses. I think it's very catchy. It's very memorable. That's a word that Daniel's using a lot here, which I think is good. Memorable is important. If you have memorable melodies, that's what makes a good song. And I think this is why these songs are in the top 4. And I confess, I think what makes that song good and what I think other people like about this song is that sort of orchestration, that dark orchestration that's in there, that kind of stuff that's lying underneath it, gives it a definite mood to it that kind of suits it. If they would have gave that song to Paul to sing, it would have been a disaster. But because Gene sings it, I think it's fantastic. And one last thing I just want to say, I think what might have been a little bit more interesting is why didn't they try to give Eric a song to sing? Why didn't they give him maybe Walk Alone to do instead of Bruce? You know, even that would have been slightly more interesting than having Bruce do it. I mean, Bruce, he's not really known to sing. I mean, Eric Singer is a great singer. He's done shown him many times in live performance. He's an excellent singer. They should have had.
Okay, Mark made a great point talking about the ending of the song. I think that goes for a lot of the songs on this album because I think Paul and Gene thought that you had to have some sort of extensive ending to all of the songs. You could cut easily half a minute of almost every song except Take a Look in the Mirror. That's a good ending.
All right, Ken, top 4.
Okay, well, not to outdo Daniel. I'm
Do
going to
it.
play. Okay, never mind. So my songs. Okay, Hate. The Hate is a great song. I have it as number one on my list. It is the most like Revenge. I do think of it as like a, Unholy Junior, the junior song to Unholy. It's in that, style. So I think that's a great song, obviously. Great guitar solo, again, by Bruce, and great drumming by Eric, of course. Jungle, another one high on my list, too. Great vocal performance by Paul on this one. I do agree that it does, it's more straightforward, kind of Kiss-ish, I guess. It's not full on Kiss, but it's closer, than the other songs that he did. And I agree. I totally agree about the ending. That it runs on a little bit long. It should have been, trimmed down a bit. Let's see, Childhood's End. I really like that one. Great chorus. Very catchy. Always liked it. Believable. And like most of the Genes are, like Julian said, they're a little bit more believable because that's, the tone that he's supposed to be, being the demon. And then I Confess. Yeah, that's the middle of my list. That sound, when it starts off, it has that. It sounds like a soundtrack to an old movie. Like someone walking through the graveyard, and it has that music playing, kind of like that old black and white movie, like an old creature feature. It gives me that feeling, but I do not care for the verses so much in that song. Really don't, not too much. Not happy with the verses, but I do like the chorus. The chorus then saves it for me. But otherwise, I mean, our lists are pretty close for the most part, except for a few. But it's a decent album. It's a Gene album, in my opinion. So.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and Hate would have been number one had I not savaged it, because I dislike Hate strenuously.
Your fault.
No, it is, and Hate has ruined.
Which position did you have it in? What position did you
where
have?
did I have it? I had it down in seventh place.
Whoa!
Oh,
Wow.
Because of that
Holy
damn
cow.
intro. That intro is just so stupid.
Skip the intro.
No,
boys, I
no, it sets the tone and it's idiotic, and then you go into this overly, weak attempt of being son of Unholy, and it's just not a good song. I don't care for it. So I'm
All right.
my top song is I Confess, because I love how bipolar it is, and it's like the demon of day and night. You've got like the verses, which are weak, but the chorus is just so glorious that it makes up for any other shortcomings. Childhood's End, it is my number 2 pick. So the character of the song.
Gene songs.
Yeah, my top 3 are Gene. How often does that happen? Jungle's in 4th place for me because it's just overdone, and it was a better Deep Purple song. So we had the Black Sabbath song, we've got the Deep Purple song here, and that's a complete rip of a Purple song. So you fool no one. But it's a great groover, and Jungle is a good song. It grooves. It's unusual.
Yeah.
It sounds good, but Hate is not. So.
Yes, it
And-
is.
Yeah, and some songs just have not aged well for me. Master and Slave, I loved way back, and now I'm like, oh, really? It just, for my taste, has not done well. But, let's talk about some of the material that was on the vault, because there's quite a broad amount of material that could have turned up on it, or did turn up on Gene's solo album in 2004. Daniel, do you think any of that stuff should have kicked it off, or was any of that stuff on the vault way better in those demo forms than was realized in the studio?
Many people talk about the song you mentioned. I think it's I Confessed, and they prefer the demo. I'm not sure if I agree. Oh, did you freeze? No, you didn't freeze.
No.
No. You just went quiet. Okay. Okay. So, but we did an episode way back. I don't know which number it was, where we looked at the best leftovers, if you remember. I know Ken was there, and I think Julian was also in that episode. And we went through the leftovers, and actually Ken mentioned one that I hadn't listened a lot to, and it was Chrome Heart by Gene, of course. I think that could have been something that they could have added. Also, I also liked I Want to Rule the World. I'm not sure when that started, but I think it started somewhere in this period. There are several versions. And what else? There's no Paul songs that you could use, because if you think about it, Gene really did material for 3 albums. He did material for this album, Carnival of Souls, and some of the leftovers were used on his Soul album and also on Psycho Circus, right? So he did a lot of work. He went full steam ahead.
Above and beyond.
Yeah, exactly. So, but in my mind, when we did that episode and went real deep on the leftovers, it really, there aren't that many. But Chrome Heart, I Want to Rule the World, and I think there was one more. Can't think of it now. Let's see if I.
Juliet, Hey You, Sticky Goo.
No, none of these.
Within.
Rain Keeps Falling.
No.
Rain.
Oh, didn't I put this somewhere in the
Those
notes?
are pretty cool, though. Rain and Heavy Rain off the vault.
Yeah, Heavy Rain.
Yeah, that's the one. Heavy Rain. That's the one. I really like that one. So Heavy Rain, I Want to Rule the World, and what else did I say? Oh, 3 songs from Gene.
Carnival of Souls.
No. Not that one. Terrible shit. So actually, Gene had a few songs, but I don't know if it would have pushed the album that much. I think they picked pretty good songs for the album. The only one I would have left off the album is actually I Walk Alone. I think the rest is good enough.
Mark.
Yeah, well, I mean, I wasn't too familiar with some of the demos, but I did listen to them just recently, and that song Carnival of Souls, I always thought that the best thing about that was just that opening riff, and the rest of it just goes absolutely nowhere. But that's kind of the way Gene is. I mean, he writes a song. He said he writes a song every day. I remember that quote that he said, I write a song every day, at least one. But, Ace really had a great counter to that. Okay, I can't write a song every day. I write a song when I'm inspired to write a song. And that's the main difference, I think, between the two as songwriters, because Gene just writes constantly, but they're never that great. He has a lot of junk, but there's gems within it. Whereas, I think Ace maybe just writes when the moment is on him, and then the song is maybe slightly stronger at that point because of that, right? But, Gene, he has no shortage of material. I mean, if you look at that thing that I think Ken posted, the demos from this session here, you had the Heavy Rain, In My Head, Juliet, Hey You, I Confess, Rule the World, We Are One, the early version, like all these songs that are on here. He had a lot of these songs long before they appeared on the records. Like We Are One, it would appear on Psycho Circus, right? So, do these songs, would they have fit on this album? I don't think they would have fit. I mean, they would have needed some major reworking, but that's the thing with Gene's songs. I think that a lot of them need a producer to kind of say, you know what, shit can this part, this part's good, this is not good, and then construct something out of those parts and make something plausible out of it. Because a lot of his stuff, is not good. I mean, even just listening to the Gene Simmons Vault stuff, there's a lot of junk on that stuff, but there's, but there are gems within it. But it's just the way he writes. He's just one of these guys that just writes what comes to his head immediately. He records it, and he's, he just thinks that if it's on tape, it's worth using, and it's not that the way. You got to really focus on your material and figure what is really the strong stuff. That's what a good producer can help him with.
Well, he does origami, and you have to wonder if, like, a Bob Ezrin would have even touched this bag of bones, to Frankenstein it into something. Because, come on, the ingredients aren't that appealing in this cake. And even the leftovers speak of that. Yeah, I enjoy a lot of the stuff on the vault, be it Juliet, Hey You, Rain, Heavy Rain, some of the other songs that don't come to mind immediately. Turn to Stone, Granny Takes a Trip, even things that he was recycling for Psycho Circus, but the quality is lacking. And it was almost like they had been gut punched by the lack of spectacular success in 1992, and everything that they put into the effort for Revenge, that they were just finally, going through the motions on this album to a certain extent. And even the feeling of where they were recording, who they're recording with. I mean, when I heard Toby Wright's name, to be perfectly honest, I had no idea who he was in 1995, 96. I had not a clue, not in my wheelhouse. Music Grinder Studio. I mean, really? That sounds like the Fortress, like a demo house. So it really kind of reeked again of throwing our hands up, we're not going to get Marty Fredrickson in and Desmond Child and keep trying at that because it's just not working for us. So, Ken, on that, and take us into the final question of how you'd present a 25th anniversary edition of this, if you even would.
Okay. Well, firstly, for the demos, it would have been a different album had they replaced, some of the songs. Because I love songs like Rain. I think it's a really great song. I mean, Heavy Rain's good, but I like Rain better than Heavy Rain. That's just my style. Juliet could have been redone a bit, slightly, though it's a really good song. I like Turn to Stone, those kinds of things. So. Damn I'm Good is okay. It has parts.
I like the swagger on
good.
that.
Yeah. The Damn I'm Good is like, it's not, it's not a bad song. So yeah, there's a lot of stuff out there that they could have used, but they were going for a real dark, and some of those songs are not dark enough, I guess, for Carnival of Souls. Not dreary enough. They just went way down the hole on this album. So there you go for that. So for the 25th anniversary, I wouldn't mind if they did something where they remixed the darn thing. Try to bring it up from the doldrums a little bit, and maybe put it. I'm going to say this again. Do a 25th anniversary and release it on Record Store Day. I'm going to say it again, but if they could remix it, redo it, or maybe put some of the stuff that was left over, you could do that too. You can do it. Maybe I'd do an alternative, call it an alternative Carnival of Souls, something like that, and release it. That's what I would do. I don't know if you would make like a vinyl or, a colored vinyl. I don't even know what color you'd put on this one.
Brown.
But, yeah, brown. Something like, mine was just a little black, But anyway.
Beige, like the primary color on the front cover.
Okay, I'll go with that. So that's my 25th anniversary.
Daniel.
I don't know, there's a lot of stuff to put on this, but of course, like the demos, the alternate takes, the original cover, and maybe they could add some videos from the studio, because we've seen a few clips on the Kissology series where they recorded the stuff. So maybe an extensive video of Kiss in the studio. That's always interesting to see how they work on songs and ideas, and how they come up with things, and how they, the progress in the ideas, how they work on them. But other than that, I don't think there's a lot to put on this thing. and hell will freeze over before we get a 25th anniversary edition of Carnival of Souls. But
True.
but I just have to add, I was pleasantly surprised listening through the album. I think it's quite good, actually. Even though Mark made the main point with that big word he used, which was
disingenuous.
Yes, exactly. That's the feeling that you're left with after listening to the album. But take a look in the mirror. One hell of a song.
Mark, your final thoughts on this gymnasium of a Kiss album?
I think you can make a 25th out of this. They won't, but the first thing I would do, immediately get it remixed, for sure. When you put it on vinyl, do the same thing that they did with some of the other records here. Make this a 45 RPM, spread it over more things, because if you look at the original vinyl of this, that dead wax on there is like 2 millimeters long. Like, they put too much stuff on this album, and it sonically suffered, because I put this on my turntable earlier today, and I had to really pump up the volume on my stereo. Like, why is it so quiet? Well, they had to, because otherwise they couldn't fit it on the side, the material properly. So I think they had to do a proper remix of it, do it on over 2 records, add on that third or that fourth side, add some of the demos that we talked about. If you're going to do a box set in this day and age, it makes sense to do a 5.1 of this with some of the creepy sound effect stuff that's on here and some of the weird guitar stuff. This can transpose over to a 5.1 mix easily, I think. And might make it a lot more interesting, actually, if you listen to this album in 5.1. Still material from I think that the studio material needs to be put on here, and I think that's the big thing that it needs to do on the box set: studio footage.
Yeah, no, I agree with Mark's concept for, a deluxe edition. Throw all the demos on as a couple of extra CDs, a remix, and then if there's enough video for a DVD and maybe a song-by-song commentary of the 4 members of the band, and Toby Wright would make a good, quick and dirty, the Carnival of Souls documentary. How realistic is that? No way on earth that's happening. Just be happy that it ever got out in the first place. All right. That's it. That's our discussion on Carnival of Souls. What do you think? I enjoyed revisiting it. It's not an album I play very often at all. I play this less than just about any album in the Kiss catalog. I play Psycho Circus more than this.
Oh, my.
Yeah. Wow. It really has fallen out of favor with my tastes. So, it's good to revisit it, and because I do remember how much fun it was back in 1995, 96 when it first leaked out. It was, new excitement, and it's been a long time since we've had that sort of excitement with new Kiss music. But it's now 2012 is the last time a studio album came out, and since then it's just been little bits and pieces. So, hopefully in 2022 we'll get some new excitement about maybe Kiss releases that will include stuff we haven't heard before or heard properly. Who knows? As we saw last year, anything remains possible with Kiss. All right, that's it. Give us your thoughts. What do you like the best? What do you like the least? Who do you agree with the most? And why do you disagree with Julian? So for now, from Daniel,
because you're
Ken,
sane,
Mark, and myself, thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time. Thank you for spending time listening to the KissFAQ podcast today. All sales are final. There are no refunds. If you'd like, look us up on Facebook or come over to the KissFAQ message board and discuss the topic we've broadcast today. Don't forget to rate us on iTunes, Spreaker, or wherever you've listened to the show. We hope you'll join us again.